Well, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order a special called meeting. And I'll tell you what we're going to discuss here in a moment. But members present, there are 9 people that sit on this board. All 9 of us are here with the exception of Vice Mayor Gavigan. He is absent. Anybody hear from him? Okay. We're also joined on stage by our City Administrator, Ms. Pam Caskey, and various department heads and chiefs out there in the galley. And so tonight's meeting is it's a special call meeting, one of possibly 2, but one for sure. We are talking about our 2023-2024 budget. Thanks for those watching online. And staff is going to present what they have. We're going to ask questions. We are talking everything on the operating side of the budget with the exception of utilities. And so I would like to remind everyone that this is a professional quorum. It's a professional place, and so your comments, if you have questions, they are questions, or comments, they are not directed towards anything that should be ridiculing staff. Do not call out staff on this with regards to disrespect. So with that, Ms. Caskey.
Thank you, Mayor. So last meeting we went through a brief PowerPoint of some what the budget was going to look like this year, where it was. You've gotten a couple of copies. I apologize that the first one didn't allow you to make comments. I hope this one does. I want to kind of give you the next steps. So we've got this meeting on the 18th, probably or possibly. Then we have the budget workshop on the first meeting in May at the end of the meeting. Then we'll start the 2 budget adoption and tax rate adoptions. So you've got multiple times to go through. Meanwhile, there's also a budget task force that has been developed. We'll start meeting with them next week, I hope. And so they may have some comments or responses that we'll try to reply to as well. This afternoon late, I sent the board some documentation that will ultimately be put with the budget. It basically shows you some differences of how we're accounting for things. And then on page 2 and 3, we talk, I'm very specific about things that you will see changes in. So if something doesn't make sense to you, I would recommend you go to this document first, because you may, if you say, hey, why did our insurance go down by more than 80%? Well, the answer is probably because we separated liability, E&O, and property damage from workers' comp and put the workers' comp up with the salary lines because it's a derivative of salaries. So again, in an effort to try to get to fund accounting, we've made the appropriate changes to do that. Again, anything that you want to understand, ask. This is a living document, so I may go in and add stuff to it from time to time. The idea is that when we publish the budget, this will go with it, and we will hopefully be able to answer citizens' questions. There's also a fund balance comparison of what the fund balance is and what it has been allocated towards and what the uncommitted fund balance is. Trent has asked a couple of questions about that. I'm going to have to get to the bottom of that in the next day or so, or early next week. I won't be here the rest of the week, so it'll be early next week when I get to it. I am looking at the document that we sent out to you. It's called BOMA Budget for 11-23. This is your document. Play with it all you want. If you want to keep up with changes, you might have to save it as another name, and then you can open it up and make changes to it. And I guess I got my chance to do an overview at the last meeting. So what I'd really like to do is answer questions of why stuff is where or what might be looked at as odd to start with. And then after that, we can get into any of the specific operational questions. I believe all of the operational staff that oversees budgets are here. Casey may be the only one missing. Everybody else is here. So feel free to ask anybody any questions that you want to ask. I guess I ought to go, the one other thing I ought to go down is the new requests. So if you'll go to the tab that says all new requests, that's the third tab in on the spreadsheet. You will see that there were 24 requests. Well, there was, I don't know how many requests, 30 requests. Of that 30, we funded about half. The new requests fell in two processes: new pieces of equipment, and new does not mean replacement. It means brand new, never had before. And then new, either promotions, reclassifications, or new people. So I'm going to run those down just real quickly for you. The leadership team met and balanced this budget. So they authorized the facilities to have a half-ton extended cab truck. They wanted fleet to have a tire balancer, parks to have a 3/4 ton pickup, Parks Recreation to have a 3/4 ton pickup to move bleachers around and park staging and that sort of stuff. A tow behind blower for parks. There is a proposal to promote 2 lieutenants and 1 captain. Is that correct, Chief? But to not backfill those positions at this time. To promote from a senior planner position to a planning director's position. To hire a traffic signal tech. That's high because first year comes with a vehicle. After that, it'll go down to a more normal salary price. Hire a public works engineer. That salary is low because we expect to offset a significant amount of contract engineering that we're doing, particularly in the area of stormwater and that sort of thing. So that will go down. Adding a fire inspector. Again, that doesn't look very high because we're proposing to have fees, which we're actually going to discuss at the next BOMA meeting for some of those. We're proposing to promote the administrative captain to a community risk reduction manager, and then backfill that position with a new administrative assistant. Promotion for an accounting manager to assistant finance director. Hiring an administrative assistant for finance so that they could, so we could have somebody who can float, kind of a utility infielder. And then finally, the most important thing, there were 2 primarily important things for the leadership team. One was supporting the pay compensation plan, which has people moving all over the ballpark. This one may move 9%, and this one may move 1% based on the comp study that that's in the process of being completed. Hopefully we'll have that by the first meeting in May. And then they fully funded the capital improvements, the capital equipment plan. Yeah, they did not fully fund the capital improvement plan. We did fully fund the capital equipment plan, which means that we will put money in the bank for future use. And that is at the very last tab, and that will show you all the equipment that is being replaced from funds that are being sent to the capital equipment fund. So that was their choice of funding request. Those are in there, either in the line item for equipment or in a bulk drop for people until you say, yes, leave them, or no, don't. And that is your choice. So those are the only new things that are added to the budget of any substantial nature. Everything else is just catching up with the price increases of what we're dealing with. So, questions?
Yep, I have a question, Ms. Caskey. So with regards to the administrative assistant in finance, a floater, so does that mean floater like the front office positions?
It's more like accounts payable, tax collection, court collection, where we don't have anybody to back those people up right now. This would be somebody who could float and who could take some of the minuscule paperwork off of Deb so she can do the things that she should be doing at the higher end of the
Thank you.
system. It's going to be a quick night if somebody didn't come up with some questions.
I'm ready to adjourn. Alderman Nieves.
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, to be truthful with you, I haven't really had a chance to go through it beforehand. We just got it this afternoon, the one that we had before.
Same
I
budget,
didn't
just the
have
way,
didn't have- Yeah,
you didn't have a comment session. Same budget, no number changes of any substance. I think there was a slight variation on the way an intra-fund transfer was being done. And so it changed by about $6,000 or something like that, but it's fairly minor.
finish.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, are you talking about the one that you sent on the 7th?
Yeah.
This one right here? It's very different. The general fund summary did not include, it started at 24. And is the one you sent on the 7th, right? So this is what I have right here for general summary, but over here, for general summary, see, I'm all the way back to 21 and.
Go back over to your other one. A little bar right here,
Yeah,
push that all the way back.
there we go. Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Caskey, on the all-new request, the 950,000 salary increases, you said that is we're waiting on the plan to come out, and so that 950 is going to be spread around throughout the staff based on how the plan looks, between 1% and 9%, depending on, and I'm sure the answer is yes to this question, but the $950,000 is sufficient?
So the consultant told us to add 6% to the budget to cover the cost, and that's 6%. So,
Okay.
yes, but I haven't seen the final numbers yet, so I'm hoping, but our plan is to live within that number.
And when do we expect that?
I'm hoping that we'll have it before the 1st of May, which means we can get Mr. Thompson in front of us on the May 1st.
Okay, thanks.
Alderman Fitterer.
And I already know the answer, but just so everybody's on the same page, that number in that salary study does not include any employees who have employment agreements, correct?
That's correct.
So any employment agreements would be separate from that number.
Alderman Linville.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a proposal for how we might tackle this. Feel free to push back. Can we go like tab by tab down?
Absolutely.
I mean, I've got all my questions loaded in the different tabs.
Absolutely.
And then maybe you can point out any significant changes on each tab and
Yep.
give the opportunity for questions.
Okay.
Does that sound
Great idea, sir.
great?
What tab would you like to start with?
General fund revenues?
All right, team, general fund revenues, we're going to go tab by tab, and we'll move on from there. Any questions with this?
Yeah, I just want to if you'll give me a moment for each tab and let me tell you what the big differences are.
Yes.
You'll notice that in this one, we did not fund the Saturn in lieu of tax. So that's $250,000 that was not here. Also notice that we only provided about $500,000 of new sales tax revenue. And frankly, I think we're on line to beat the 14.5 that we projected. Right now, I think I have it coming in this year at about 15.5, but that was our projection, so I'm sticking to it. But I think I think I'm being very conservative with the 15. But those are the only two major significant issues there. Any questions now on revenues?
Alderman Linville, you're up still, sir.
Thank you. I'm just going to bullet point out my questions as I saw them. I saw that, so if you look at Murray County property taxes, we're looking at I think it's if I can get my comment to pull up.
So can I interrupt just real quick? So as guys, if we have questions as we go, if we could say the line item number in the Excel sheet, so we can do a quick reference if you have that.
So this is going to be line 2.
Line 2, thank you.
Can I interrupt for just a second?
Yeah.
Tony, would you follow me on the master budget? I'm going to work on the BOMA budget, and if you'll follow me on the master budget, anything that needs to be adjusted, we'll take care of it simultaneously. We're running 2 documents, one for you guys and one for the main drag, and we're going to have to keep them on sync. Go ahead.
So on line 2 on the spreadsheet, in column W,
Revenue.
yeah, GF revenue, I see that property tax in Murray County is running about 17% higher. Is that just we've had 17% more value come online in the past year?
We have all that industrial value that's coming
Okay.
online in Murray County that this should be the first year for it to come online in Murray County.
Okay, good deal. And then line 9, real property tax delinquencies in Williamson is about, I think, 37% higher than what we budgeted last year. Is that are we seeing an issue with collection or?
Lag, yeah,
Okay,
yep.
so we're anticipating additional delinquency.
And we're gonna
Okay,
blow
next
that
year.
450 out this year too,
Okay,
so, yeah.
got it.
We didn't run that up high enough, probably. We need to start running that number as a percentage of what was left from 2 years, and we haven't been doing that. I tried to do it this year. It may take us a little while to get into a rhythm.
Next question's on line 9, I guess 18 and 19 for sales tax between Murray and Williamson. I noticed that, so the Williamson line, we had been at, budgeting 3.8 and then we're estimated to come in at 4 and then we have it at 6. Is there a reason that we're estimating that to jump this next fiscal year and Murray County to decline? Or are we looking at basically an aggregate between the two, looking at 15 million?
We're looking at an aggregate of 15 million. This is worth showing you. If you want to look here, right now we are projected to end. Let's see. I've got a fiscal year somewhere. Oh, it's down here. That we will be running. This is Murray County. Or this is just Murray County, and we are running quite a bit high in both counties comparatively. Here's the number I was looking for. So our fiscal year end is going to be right at 6,610,000 based on what we've got in Williamson.
Okay.
And in Murray, this is this year's fiscal year end, we're going to be at 1093. So we're only projecting 14.5 for this year and only 15 for next year. But we're on target if these red numbers come in where we're supposed to at being at 16.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
So we'll see, I guess, column U for 23 estimate ending. That could be about $1.5 million higher than what's reflected in this document.
That's
Okay.
right. And we could have it next year, but I would like to save that $1.5 million for a budget amendment early out.
Absolutely. Last question for me on row 34, column Y for building permits. Well, I guess this is 2 questions on that cell. What number of building permits is that based on? And is that a flat rate per permit, or does the value of the construction impact that?
We have a housing is going down. So we were a year and a half ago budgeting 1,000 residential permits and virtually no commercial permits. So that was just the equation that had been being used, right? And then we said, oh, well, let's add 20% for commercial activity. Okay, so now we're 1,000 permits and 20% for commercial. And then we've found all this industrial and commercial activity going on and housing dropping. So this is all of these big commercial projects coming on board and housing permits only being at 500 permits.
Great, thank you.
And one more thing, taxes lag building. So you're going to see us projecting more real estate coming on board than we are houses getting permits. We'll show that reflection in a couple of years because those things have got to get built, sold, and come on the property tax rolls. So
And those are based on the value of the build-outs, right?
that's right,
Great, thank you.
both of them. And there's a higher commercial rate than there is a residential rate for both permits and taxes.
Alderman Canapari?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Not so much on the figures, but could you explain again the headings where we've got the fiscal year, columns W,
Yep.
X, Y, and
Yep.
AA?
Okay, yes. So let's start at S. That's fiscal year 23 amended. That's a budget you just finished. I assume we'll do one more. There's actually a column already in there. When we add it, it'll automatically update that one. And then FY 23 year to date is T. And that is the number as of the end of February, unless a department head updated theirs on their own. But we did it as of February. FY 23 year-end estimate is what we think it will be. Sometimes that's done by a formula. Sometimes it's plugged, okay? Because I paid my insurance bill at the beginning of the year and I don't have another one, so math doesn't work. Sometimes it's, every month we spend X. If you want to know what that is, you can hover over it and you can see, is it a plug number? We wrote in a number, or did we do it on the basis of formula? And then FY 24 requested is what the department head asked for. Lead adjust is what the leadership team adjusted in order to come to a collective opinion about what they wanted to propose for a budget. FY 24 is the combination of what was requested and what was adjusted to get to the leadership team's budget. And then FY 25 requested is what they're thinking they're going to need, not just for this coming year, but for the year after that.
All right, thanks.
Alderman Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. Pam, just one quick question, because I know you talked about the Saturn in lieu of tax. Is nothing budgeted there because we're not going to get anything, or is it because we don't know what we're going to get? Because I remember we had a discussion about it, and I'm just trying to make sure.
Yeah, I asked the same question earlier. It's assuming something happens, right? We don't know what might happen yet, but no, right now we're contractually obligated to receive $250. So those are still fluid conversations with the county, and I don't think we can assume we're going to get anything. So I think Pam's approach to plug zero in and anything that
And if we
comes
get something,
we plug it in a budget amendment, easy enough, right?
yep. Thanks.
Good.
Pam, could I just get clarification again, what Alderman Canapari was saying for the FY 20, column T for the year to date? And then
Column
the
which?
Column
Column
T.
T and column U. You have the 23 year to date, and then column U is the 23, what is that, YE?
Year-end estimate.
Okay, what's the difference? What does that mean? Is that
Well,
one-
year-to-date was probably, so if you can look up here on the screen, you'll see this long, complicated formula there in FY 23 year-to-date. That means that was pulled from a report at the end of February. If you see another number, it means somebody else updated it. That formula was a pullover from a system generated from Tyler. FY23 is a calculation or a plugged number. I think most of these revenues are plugged, but you'll see other plugged, meaning we went in and typed in a number, as opposed to calculated, which means we divided by 7 and multiplied by 12.
So which one of these are the most accurate of year to date?
Well,
What our ending budget for ending the year?
the estimate is in you. The estimate is in you. It is the best guess that we have of where we're going to be at the end of the year.
Okay, so let me, just so that I can clarify here, in looking at this 23 number, is there, were there any other miscellaneous revenues that were added to the budget, like the 3.3 million? So that we know that that is being calculated here?
That is in the amended. It is not in the year-to-date or year-end estimate. It is a journal entry.
It's in the amended?
So it'll be done, yeah, we probably need to, those are weirdo done because they're reserves. Those are mostly reserves for the stuff that we set aside monies for. So we'll have to figure out how to do that. We may need to do an update on that number. Tony, did you get that? Miscellaneous, 114, we probably need to look at how we're gonna account for that.
I just want to know the true numbers here. I want to know that if was there any more miscellaneous revenue, like what we just, had disclosed here last Monday of the 3.3 million. Are there others that were in this budget for 23? And if so, are they here? Are we seeing those here now? Does that make sense?
I'm lost, but here's what I will do. I will go back and research the miscellaneous numbers to see what they are and what goes in them and what we can still expect for them.
Okay.
Hey, real quickly, just before we move on. So the word Tyler came out in this last conversation. Tyler is a software program that does its thing, not Mr. Scroggins. Tyler is software.
And he hates that.
Alderman Pomeroy.
Thanks, Mayor. Pam, looking at the difference between T and U and some of these, like line 59's 2.4 million year to date. We estimate 5.5. Line 66, it's about a $33,000 difference. Do you expect all these to catch up?
Yeah, so some of these are issued quarterly and some of them are issued monthly and some of them are random. So, for instance, 59, that's a guarantee from the state. So yes, it'll eventually catch up. What was the other one that you mentioned?
County library contribution.
Yes, that's another one that's a guarantee. We'll get it eventually. We'll get it.
Okay.
Let me just put a plug in for one of the changes. One of the things that we have now done is taken all of the intergovernmental, the permitting, and the charges for service, and we've now put that reporting in the hands of the department heads. They can now see what's happening, so they can follow up to find out where their money is with the varying programs that otherwise they couldn't do before. It was a problem for them to chase that, so.
Alderman Cox.
Thanks, Mayor. Pam, just a couple that caught my eye. They're pretty small, but just so I have an idea. So row 67, accident report revenues, 6,000 down to $100.
That's a question for me. I don't know I cannot believe that we're only getting $100 in accident revenue. I've got to sort that one out, but because it's relatively small, I just haven't gotten there to find that one yet.
Okay.
But it makes no sense. I mean, what's an accident report, Chief?
$100 is one report.
And we've talked about it. We just haven't had time to chase it.
Okay. The next one, row 82, the senior center. So I don't see anything from previous year. I thought we had something in there as far as, or was that all lumped in through parks? How did we do senior center?
We didn't do senior center until July of this past year.
Okay, so the request is to put 15,000 towards the senior center.
No,
Or
that's,
is
that's,
this, so you're
that's
anticipating?
15,000 revenue.
Okay,
We were
so-
expecting to have it pay half of its cost. We haven't reached that, guys. That may be a conversation you want to have, or maybe you've said, hey, it's successful enough, let's just keep doing it. That's your call. But we thought we were going to have like $57,000 in revenue and we're not. So we're not going to even dream that much this year. We're going to expect 15 next year.
Okay. My last one is just row 85, the TIS charges of 90K.
Yes, thank you for asking that one. I should have mentioned it. He who pays the piper calls the tune. And right now, we have the developers paying for the TIS. I want to change that to the developer pays us and we pay the engineer, because so it's a pass-through. There is an equal $90,000 over in traffic, but I want to be the one paying the engineer for the traffic improvement.
TIS is Traffic Impact Study.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Ready to move on to the next tab?
Yep.
How about line 99? No, yeah, 99 with this miscellaneous refunds and rebates. What is that?
It could be fees that we give back for like key deposits. It can be rebates that we get that we pay back because of something that went wrong somewhere. We refund somebody's money for a building permit because of something. And I don't know why those are as large as they are. And Deb, we probably need to look at that. I don't have anything budgeted. There should be the other thing it could be as a positive to us. We took recycling, or not recycling. We took, something to it sold it or something, and or whatever, got a rebate from a client for, miles or something like that. I mean, that's what should be in there. Why it's negative, I don't know. We'll have to research that one.
I'd also like to know about the, looks like 110 to 113, those transfers now, is that being counted then as revenue?
So those are internal service fund transfers. That's what IS means. And those are cost of providing services to those funds that are housed in the general fund. So those are offsets from outside funding sources. Well, outside general fund funding sources. They're called intra-fund or inter-organizational funding transfers, okay?
Alderman Linville?
Thank you, Mayor. I did have one other, note to point out on line 95 for interest earnings. Following our bank meeting that BFAC had earlier today, I think that will be significantly higher than $5,000.
Well, okay, but it's 35.
Am I missing the right? Oh, between both. You're right. Sorry, I was looking at that one line.
Yeah, but
yes, the monthly was, potentially multiples of that number. So that's all I'll throw out there.
I'm looking very forward to that possibility.
Thank you, Board. Next tab, legislative. Please switch to that. Again, talk about the line item. If you have any questions on it.
The only thing I'll point out is that just in an effort to keep cost accounting accurate, you're going to see some minor changes here and there. Line 23 has always been housed in finance. Deb is like, I'm not responsible for this number. Why is it with me? And so it is really your number because it is based on the requirement for your meetings and your activities. So it is there. That said, down at the bottom, there is money for Historic Commission and Parks and Rec, and we'll be proposing to move those to Parks and Rec and to the Historic tab. But right now we don't have a Historic tab, but we'll get there to get those out of your division.
We are on Legislative tab. Alderman Linville.
Thank you. I had a question on row 22, I guess columns W and Y. Can you give me a rundown of what is included in those line items?
That is not tourism at all. It's just economic development. I'd like to move this to the economic development division, but we're not completely set up with that division yet. But that is 20,000 to Murray Alliance, 20,000 to Williamson Inc., and 10,000 to the Spring Hill Chamber. Or 15,000 to the Spring Hill Chamber. Line 22.
So the 55, okay.
Yeah, the 55.
Great.
And we do pay for or for tourism development services, but it's in the tourism fund.
That was going to be my next question, is on line 64. There's a tourism partners line. And that's going to be found in tourism, right?
I think that needs to be moved as well.
Okay.
It's blanked out.
Right.
We've moved that. But yes, that's.
Great, thank you.
Some of this stuff we have to keep alive because there's history in it. And some of it will go away once the history falls off.
Alderman Nieves.
What is the tourism partners?
So we have two tourism partners. We have Southeast Central Tourism something, and we don't spend a lot of money with them. And then we spend 25% of our hotel motel tax with Williamson County CVB.
Alderman Murray.
Just want to make sure I had the right line. So for Parks and Rec and for Historic Commissions, that's lumped together currently in the 30,000?
Yes.
And then you're going to separate that out? Because I know there's a Parks and Rec tab. I just didn't know if that was.
Yeah, it hasn't been separated yet, but it will be.
15 each? 15
Yeah,
apiece.
yeah. I just didn't want to move it without talking to you guys, but yeah, it's my intent to move it. I think I'm going to have to leave Historic Commission for right now, but I think I want to move the Parks and Rec number over to Parks and Rec. It'll actually move to Rec.
Alderman Cox.
Thanks, Mayor. I think the only one I have is just, and I'm sorry if you've already clarified, row 18, the contractual services, going estimated year end is 89 and then 15,000.
That's just a miscellaneous number to give you a little bit of options if you needed something.
Okay.
It's very definitely a swag.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Linville. All right, moving on. Next tab, Judicial.
This is a big one.
All right. Next tab is Administration.
Notice here the 950, I've created a line and I've plugged all of that there.
Which line?
Line 14.
Thank you.
And it doesn't have an account number because it'll ultimately end up going away and it'll get distributed wherever it needs to go once we get there. But for right now, to keep it in the budget, we've held it there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're looking for raises, but I don't think we can expect that much. I'm going to Disney.
Alderman Nieves?
Yeah, on line 19, the contractual services for administration, what kind of contractual services fall up under this one?
We have put a variety of things there over the years. I can't even answer all those questions. Studies, professional services. I don't even know that I completely know. I've left a little bit of number there in case we needed to pay somebody for some advice that we don't normally have on retainer.
But it's increased substantially across the years here. Just wondering what.
Dan, can you tell me what's in that account? I can't get into Tyler here, so.
We're pretty sure that the only thing in there right now is
Okay. Yeah, we're trying to get that out of there and move that down to some other location. In case you don't know, we are out of records room here, and so we're spending about $450 a month for a storage facility at
The B.
B. Yeah, so yeah, that's coming. But there's something else in there, and I don't necessarily remember what it was. Anything else on this one?
Moving on, communications tab.
This is a split. So in the years past, the communications and admin have been together as part of the separation of duties and divisions. We've pulled communications out, and so you will see no history because there's not been one before. So. And some of the contractual services was for software and stuff for communications. And now it's over in IT, so that's the other reason it can go down.
Alderman Murray?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So just on lines 2 and 3, Pam, for salaries and wages, I see like the 200 going down to a request of 163, but then an add on the 75. Is that meaning in communications we're going to reduce salary and then add in? I'm just not sure what wages.
So salaries are people who do not get overtime. Wages are people who do.
Okay.
And long-term, the reason you want to separate those is your overtime calculation ought to be a percentage of your wages. It shouldn't be a percentage of your salary and wages because you're never going to be paying those people, those salaried people, overtime. So we have had a vacant position all year, and now we've had a vacant position for a third of a year. So that's why the number is down. If you look at the budget, it's up. Okay, I mean, it's 229.
Yeah.
We're recommending a salary there that's just the normal increase of having the two people. And I don't know why we have two salaries and one wages. We should have one salary and two wages, but I'll figure that one out.
Okay.
Next tab, which is finance.
Hold on, I need to make that note. And I don't think Tony's getting those for me, are you?
We were going through this.
We're on the communications tab, lines 2 and 3. There's some disconnect there.
Yeah, why do we have two salaried and one wage? Why don't we have one wage and two salaries and two wages and one salary? Fair question, right?
Fair question. We'll check the coding off the.
Right. I just need you to mark it so we don't forget it.
Back to finance tab. Next tab is IT.
Yeah, hold on, got to go back. Finance?
Are we back to finance? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Well,
I've got a finance question.
Okay, finance tab going back. Alderman Linville?
Thank you. Pam, can you give us a little a little information on row 13, column X, the retirement deficit?
This is not retirement deficit. This is one of those places where the title didn't get updated. That should be leadership adjust. That's the salary, that's the bulk salary for the finance admin assistant. And everywhere that should say leadership adjustment, missed one.
Great, thank you.
Alderman Nieves?
Thank you, Mayor. Pam, it has here on line 19 on down, postage, printing, copier, those kinds of things. And then down here below, starting at line 41, we again have office supplies, computer, software, that kind of thing. Are these all different, or are they not? Those are just all contracted services up there that we're doing?
That's right.
In addition to our own office supplies and things? Is what
Right.
you're saying.
Right. So we pay
Shred it.
a company, we pay a company to mail our bills, our utility bills and our property tax bills. And then we have a copier rental, and then we have merchant fees. So, yes, and then we have office supplies, paper, pencil.
And the staffing services, those are contracted as well?
If they're staffing services, yes. Yeah, they're contract services. They do not get wages, so they do not, that we pay taxes on. We pay a company who pays those. So they have to go below in the contracted services, not up in the personnel services.
Alderman Linville?
Thank you. And just to make sure I have clarity, so the full amount of these, utility contracted services are reflected in this part of the budget, and then there's a charge back in, was it legislative or no, general fund revenue for the payback from the different funds
Yes.
for these? Okay.
Is that 10 grand?
No, this is going to be for when general fund pays for
yeah.
utility bills to go out.
Well, utility bills will be its own,
Okay. It's primarily property tax.
but this is primarily property
Gotcha.
tax. I just
Okay.
bulked those together, but yeah. Wait till you see the cost of mailing utility
Sure.
bills.
Thank you.
And it's going up, by the way.
Okay, moving on. Next tab is IT.
Now, remember, this one's going to look bizarre to you because suddenly this is going to have every piece of software and every piece of hardware we buy throughout the entire organization right here. That is very deliberate because I want the people I want the people who are going to have to maintain it to be involved in its purchasing. When you put the budget out in the departments, that doesn't happen because they have the freedom to not do it. This is the way you make sure it happens, is to put it where they have to comply. And then we charge that back through an interfund transfer to make the police pay for the police and finance pay for finance and all that.
Alderman Murray?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think you answered my question, Pam, because I saw the big jump from
$150,000.
5,800 to 60,000 on line 10 for health insurance. Am I seeing that right? 58 year in, and then the budget request is 60 grand.
Yeah, we've got two positions that we haven't filled, one for police support and one for data analyst. We haven't filled those all this year, but we have budgeted to fill those next year out of this fund. Yeah, they're both IT positions, and we budget the max workers' comp if we don't know who it is. It just so happens that the employee that we currently have doesn't need that much insurance. So his is reflected there, but the ones that we haven't hired yet have been maxed out, so.
Alderman Linville?
Thank you. So just for make sure I have clarity, so a lot of the jump here are things that were in other departments that are now living in IT to make sure that IT has a budget control over those items, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Alderman Cox?
Can I do something first? If you would, and it's going to be a bit of a challenge for some of you, but if you would walk all the way towards the end let me just show you, and I'm going to blow this up on the screen, so if you don't want to walk with me, you can just look at the screen. This is the calculation tab for IT splits. Okay, you can see the software cost for all of the departments. So there is police, $163,000 in software cost annually. Finance department is $49,700. Codes is $60,000. Water utility billing is $135,000. Okay, and then the calculation over at the general split is, that's the kind of estimated usage that each of those departments have. So we've applied that percentage to their overall cost, and then we've also added their specific software cost. Okay, so yeah.
Alderman Cox?
Thanks, Mayor. Let's see. One of row 49, if I'm looking at portable electronic devices,
Yes.
and I see in 23, in column P, we budgeted 111. Column U, estimated year end is only 34. And then
What, can you give me a line number? I'm sorry.
49.
49. That explains why I wasn't anywhere near.
Yeah, so if I just look at column P, we budgeted 111, but
Yeah.
in column U, we're saying estimated year end is only 34, and then we bump it up to 125. What?
So I'm willing to bet you that that's not just portable electronic devices. I'm willing to bet that's hardware of all descriptions. That may be one of those places where we didn't have two budget items. We picked one and we might have picked the wrong one. And that might be a cleanup item, Deb, that we need to look at, because I bet that 111 is hardware, not portable devices. I think we probably just coded that to the wrong spot.
So for clarity, so the 125 for fiscal year 24, that is the,
Hardware. Yeah,
that is
that's
portable electronic devices only, or that includes hardware?
That is,
That's- okay.
that number probably needs to be switched to the hardware,
Got it.
because we're not buying that many iPads.
Tony, will you please make a note of that, sir? Thank you.
Row 34, looking at telephone, is that the telephone bills, or is that a mixture of bills and infrastructure? I just see it.
Yeah,
We had it at 95 and 23, 95K, column P,
Yeah,
and then estimated year end is 35,000, and then back up to 100K. Is that another you picked a different account, or?
we have a different, no, I think that's an error in you, because they've got a calculation there that I don't understand why they have. I think, but that is the rental and the accounting. I mean, I don't think we get any telephone bills anywhere other than right here for desk phones. We get cell phone bills, and the fire department gets some bills, and we can talk about that when we get to fire if you want to. But I think we've got an error in U 34 there.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Nieves?
Thank you. Pam, where you have, I know you have it on some of the other tabs, I just wanted to go back and clarify that, the old salary and wages. So what's the difference again there?
So if you see the term old salary, that's where all the salaries went before. And so in the future year, it's been called old salary this year because we had a couple of different lines to try to get ready for this. But here, old salaries just means salary and wages means wages.
Okay.
So it's the line, and you'll see all the historical cost in old salary. If you see something that doesn't have historical cost, it's a new wage line.
Okay.
Because we had to pick a line, since we were splitting them. We had to put the old history in one place and the new history in another.
Also, you spoke a minute ago with Alderman Linville about transfers. Where do you see that in these tabs? Is it not here?
No, it's on the, it's over, well, yeah, it's over, we're going to talk about that on May 1, right? Matt?
So how will we know how these transfers are impacting these?
So the we used to call these the purple tabs, and now I've changed the color. The purple tabs, which are IT, GIS, fleet, and engineering, all have a 0 ending balance. At the end of the year, all of the money they spent will have gotten distributed somewhere else. And so over on the summary, you will see that we have less invoicing to zero those out.
Doesn't make any sense to me, what you're saying. I'm sorry.
We're treating IT like it is a private enterprise without a profit margin.
Okay.
So everything they spend, they're going to bill out. And every department is going to pay its share. So let's go back to administration, because that's one that's sitting right here. You'll notice on line 58, 9, and 10, there are costs that says transfer to IS for IT, and that is admin share of the cost in IT or fleet or GIS. Now, we're going to make this easier to understand, I hope, before the end of the budget year, by moving them to an internal service fund, so that it'll actually be in their own fund instead of in the general fund. But that's a discussion we need to have with BFAC before we bring that policy to the board. But we needed to get this conversion done before it was going to work very effectively.
Thank you.
Alderman Canapari.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. You answered my first question. I was going to ask if the object is to zero out IT. So the answer is yes. So now my next question is, to build a budget for IT, do you start from the department's requirements to get the number you need for IT, or does it go the other way?
Yes.
Both?
It's a conversation between each department. So the department says, hey, I need this, this, and this. Here's what my software cost. Here's what I want. IT says, okay, we can do that. Hey, we can do this cheaper.
And what about, we used to call it like desktop help.
Yeah.
So how does that figure in as you get more employees in the public works department?
Their fee goes up.
That translate into, okay, got it.
So let's talk about that for a second, because we have what we call the gold standard for this in fleet. We have a software program that fleet knows exactly how many hours they spend. We know what their personnel costs are, therefore we know what their hourly rate is. So if they spend an hour doing something on a car, the computer bills that rate, and it bills the parts and services, and it builds an overhead in, and the police department gets a bill for that amount. Well, you need rags, and you need you need rags and cleaner and dry, huh? Shop supplies, yes.
Not really like overhead, like to pay their
No. Profit. Yeah, no. Miscellaneous stuffs. So that's the gold standard. They get a bill at the end of the year. There should be very little difference between what they billed and what they got reimbursed for. And we'll make it right so that it zeros, but it should be very little. That's the gold standard.
Okay.
over in IT, we don't have that gold standard. We're making estimates. How many computers are in each department? How many people are connecting? How much software does it take to support you? And all of that. And we've got a massive calculation. I'm happy to share that, but it's a massive calculation that they've worked on. And we're going to apply that. The more we get history, the better that'll get.
Yeah, I just want to say that in my experience, 50 years I've been in business, this is the way most for-profit companies will operate. They have internal services that they bill out to the other departments, and that makes their overhead in that internal services zero. So, good job.
Alderman Linville?
Yeah, I think, just to add a little bit, I think one thing that might be helpful is on that tab that Pam showed us, the total that's being requested for IT matches the total on that breakdown. So that's how everything will be allocated. Yep.
Yeah, this is one of those places where we go, it's just math.
Is that Tyler's fault? It's a joke. All right, next tab, GIS. GIS.
I'm excited here because we finally have a GIS manager and he is going to town, and we're hopefully going to be able to show you some snazzy stuff soon. We do need to do some work on year-to-dates and year-end estimates here, but we haven't had anybody to talk to. He came on board April 3rd, so we were trying to give him a little chance to find his way to the executive washroom before we started talking to him about financial needs. And we've guessed at next year's budget, but he's new, and what he needs, he's going to know more than we do. So this one may get adjusted more than others, but the other thing that we did do is we have a GIS tab that looks like the IT tab. And here's the cool thing. I initially had it set up just for the few departments that I thought would need it. And in a leadership meeting, we went through and everybody said, no, I want a piece of that pie. I want a piece of that pie. I want a piece of this pie. So as you can tell, it's getting spread by a variety of different places. And not every place needs it. Fleet doesn't care about the GIS, but sanitation does, and parks do, and planning certainly does. So again, those splits go right back to the total. So.
Alderman Linville?
Thank you. I had a question on line 26 for other professional services. I noticed that was a leadership adjustment where we originally didn't have anything budgeted. Now we have 75. What was that for?
Mr. Allen?
Thank you.
That's for Dan.
I'm like,
I finally know the answer to one question. That is some additional money that we went ahead and budgeted to continue to have OHM to support us on the general fund side primarily, give David and Shannon some support through the next year. And then after that, we'll start weaning them off of it.
Perfect. Thank you.
and that will be one that we can actually budget directly. So it'll come through here, but it'll get budgeted back. So if they're doing a update for Tyler, then it'll get that amount of money from OHM will get directly budgeted back to Tyler's GIS line and that sort of thing. So it'll be project-based. So that'll be kind of that gold standard in that line alone.
Next tab, HR.
I want to call attention to one problem, and I want you guys to think about it. You know, Franklin says that they want to be at the 75th percentile of salaries in their size grouping around the state. We're struggling to stay at 50% of our size grouping around the state, and yet we are competing with Franklin. So, I know that salaries are not everything, and a lot of it is about the way you treat your employees and how much they think you care about them. One of my concerns is that in an attempt to be frugal, we have dropped our cost for employee appreciations and employee support, picnics, and that sort of thing. I'm not completely sure that that's the smartest idea we have, but the department head was the one who was being very conservative, and so I did not want to just arbitrarily raise his budget, but I am bringing it up to you as a point of consideration.
Alderman Fitter.
I think employee appreciation events are far cheaper than trying to chase Franklin's salaries. But I would put it back on the department heads to try to get us a read on how appreciated the employees really feel through those events. Because regardless of what we budget, if the intent isn't landing with the employee, it doesn't matter. So
Fair point.
this is a far easier thing to budget for, but let's just verify that we're actually getting what we want out of it.
Fair enough.
Alderman Pomeroy.
Ms. Caskey, does that reflect on line 20 picnic? Is that what
Yeah.
that number declining is?
Yeah.
All the way down. Yeah, no, I'm saying that for the $5,000 that came out of employee benefits, might as well just put them back in, whether they like it or not, but.
Alderman Cox.
Thanks, Mayor. Just one row, 34 I noticed. We've got 2,000 requested, no adjustment, but then column Y doesn't have anything in it.
You're right. Yep, that one's wrong. Okay, fix that one. You won't see it, but I fixed that one. Glad it was only 2,000.
Nice, Alderman Cox.
Yeah,
Nice.
I can. For the record, I'm thrilled that you guys are catching this stuff because I don't care how many times you look at it, you just always are missing stuff.
Alderman Linville.
Thank you. I had a question on line 38. So health insurance reimbursement. So it was a new line in 23, budgeted 200. We've only spent 28 thus far, and then we've got another 100 budgeted in 24. What was the purpose of that line? And do we
So if you
anticipate-
remembered, when we changed insurance, there was a change in the max out-of-pockets
Right.
and the deductibles, and the request was to keep employees whole.
Okay.
And
what it
so
was.
that's what that was.
So we've just seen a lower realization rate than we anticipated.
We budgeted 200,000 last year, and I was hoping, in fact, I may have even said, we may not need that for the whole 3 years it lasts. But, I mean, I'm noticing there's no year-end estimate there, Tony. We need to add that, because it's definitely going to be at least 28, and I know I got a grand coming. But, yeah, I actually think we budgeted 200. I actually think 200 will carry us. Remember, we covered 100% the first year. This year, we're covering 2/3. Next year, we're funding 1/3, and then we're done. So we'll see some number next year, but then we should see no more.
Good deal. Thank you.
Next tab, facilities, please.
This is a tab that right now we have chosen not to make a purple tab out of, but ultimately we do want to do that. We want to start costing this one out the same way we are costing the other. That will give us more ability to spread people around and get better service, and it will stop making policemen janitors and stop making staff people, clerical staff people that have to work with the plumbers to get things to happen in their buildings. So we're not quite there. We want to take a year on this one and get it stabilized, but then we'll propose to move this into internal service as well.
Next tab, police. Oh, sorry, Alderman Linville.
Thank you. Notice on 32 and lines 32 and 33, it looks like those are the same account code.
Yeah,
Are
but
those
they're
supposed to be
different numbers.
or is it a duplicate?
No, it's not a duplicate. It's the way I used a calculation to get the header. That's what it is. I'll find that one out.
So that's not.
No,
Well,
it's
it'll be something
two different
else. Okay.
accounts, yeah. I'm just not sure what the other account is, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
Nice. Tony, do you have that one? Thank you, sir. Okay.
Oh, by the way, on that, you'll see this new tab called licenses. Tyler, you want to speak very briefly to the issue of CDL licenses?
Yeah, so basically this is, Dakota has to have different licenses for like HVAC, different things. We have some people that's on staff that we're trying to hire that will have some license to be able to do inspections and those type things. We're currently looking for that person to hire right now. It's a vacant position, but I do know Dakota has a few of those.
It's a new line.
Okay, moving on. Police tab.
Some of you ask why the PEP went down so much here, and if you'll notice, the reason it went down so much here is because it went up so much in workers' comp, because we moved workers' comp out of the fixed charge to the workers' comp, a new line called workers' comp.
Alderman Linville.
Thank you. I know that, part of the moving workers' comp to the top salary line is going to adjust for some of the difference. But there's a pretty healthy spread between what we plan to spend this year versus next year. Can you tell us, what of that is for newly hired positions that were not authorized this past year?
What do you mean?
Essentially, how many new officers are we hiring based on the increase in the budget?
0. But there's not that much difference. So you've got,
I might be looking at the wrong numbers. So I'm seeing the estimated in column U is about 5 million that we're going to spend in 23, and then the column W is 7.2 million.
well, so we have projected to have all officers' positions filled.
Oh, so those are unfilled positions currently. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, I know the chief would like to get there. Have you been fully filled since I've been here? You have how many vacant right now? And how many will that leave you vacant? 0. So if nobody quits between the time those guys come on board, we'll have a full staff.
This budget reflects that.
Yes, the budget reflect every budget I do.
And the promotions and no backfill.
Right, that's right. That 58,000 is the adjustments with no backfill. But every budget I do, you will find we fully fund the positions authorized, plus the appropriate health insurance or the max health insurance that's available for vacant positions. So typically that gives you some float, because in an organization this size, you never have no turnover. So we'll always have a little bit of that.
Alderman Pomeroy.
Thanks, Mayor. Ms. Cassidy, we recently voted to contract out some of the services for the police vehicles instead of doing it in-house. That was the police vehicles with a local contractor? Yeah. You know where that got incorporated?
Yeah, different.
Okay.
Yeah, we hope we don't have to use that contract. Unfortunately, we have to do it faster. The problem was we needed to do that so we could get cars back on the road faster. Because otherwise, if you have to go quote every crash, it was taking forever, and you were always coming back to the same one anyway because he was the low bid. So yeah, that's for body work, not for engine and transmission work. Although we do have to send out transmissions on the Chevy Caprices. On occasion, yeah.
Alderman Cox.
Thanks, Mayor. Row 58. So Williamson County 911 is going from 364 to 510?
Yes, sir. That was the contract that was 3 years. And in fact, there was some debate as to when it was 3 years was up. But it turns out it was up in a way that we had to pay the new number this year. So, yeah, that's the number.
Okay. And we'll have a new contract, a new 3-year contract, or?
Was it a 3-year or a 5-year?
It was 3.
Okay.
And I know we're not necessarily looking at fiscal year 25, but that says $508 for Williamson County 911.
I think we missed that one. And, oh, by the way, we had a whole budget, a division for dispatch. We got rid of that because we used to have employees and now we don't.
The cost when we had it in-house was more than double than the 510, and that was several years ago. And we had more staffing problems with that department than we did any other.
So,
Yeah, I don't want it back. I've had it before. I have no interest in it.
So, Tony, line 58, column double A. Thank you. Okay. Alderman Lindo.
Thank you. I just had a question on line 23. We have funds for security cameras and alarms and that sort of stuff. But I noticed when we did the capital overview last BOMA meeting that I think there were like cameras that were as part of the capital fund. Do we, and I don't know what that would have been for, maybe security cameras or something like that. Do we have some sort of like capitalization threshold to where we capitalize certain things like that and expense them versus expensing them?
Well, pardon?
Okay.
Yeah, and I think this is not for the purchase of them. I think this is for the
Gotcha.
the body cams and the dash cams, and those are annual subscription costs and all of that. And I have 3 places that I'm out of line numbers. Dana can have no more division of accounting. And technical stuff, I've got no more divisions for what I have. And I've got one more place I can't remember. I think it's chemicals for Jessica. You're done. I mean, you got to stop. And so they wanted us to title this differently, but I really can't because I don't have another line.
All right, great. Thank you.
Okay, next tab is dispatch.
Dispatch is gone, so you can skip right over that.
It was green. Should be red.
Yeah, it should be gone, but yes.
Next tab is police highway safety grant.
Yeah, it should have been hid.
Police
yeah.
highway safety grant.
Yeah, this is about $25,000. It's a 50-50 match. It's all overtime, and we use it to run radar or do an access, speed controls with the state, and we get reimbursed for it.
Next tab is fire. Alderman
Notice-
Pomeroy.
Thanks. Go ahead.
I was going to say, notice here that one of the big pieces is the $627,000 of contribution to the capital equipment.
Which line?
82. Their trucks cost, how many trucks do you have, Chief?
Totaling around
9 trucks. They're averaging $1 million apiece. So they last 10 to 15 years? Front line. And then they go to reserve. Okay, so you've got you're putting aside about that much money every year. Right now, we're treating trucks as a capital purchase, but we really need to get to the point that we're just replacing them and like we're replacing anything else. So we're putting a lot of money into what, for lack of a better word, I'd call a sinking fund to support buying those things. It may take a couple of trucks before we get there because we haven't been depreciating them for the last number of years, but eventually, if we keep to this plan, we'll get to the point where buying a truck is no more of a discussion than, buying a new pickup.
Alderman Pomeroy.
Thanks. Ms. Caskey, when I read the pass-down report, I always see the false alarm chargeable call, and I'm sure the amount of money is minuscule, but does that come to us? And is it reflected somewhere to the fire?
How much do we, so we made a new agreement, if you remember, over false alarm, or over the alarm monitoring, and
70-30 split, 70.
so,
Okay, so it's coming, it's somewhere in there.
and it's over in the revenue side.
Okay, understood.
Yep.
Alderman Nieves.
Yeah, you mentioned depreciation. So are we seeing that anywhere here in this budget? Are we counting for depreciation?
Very back, it's called CEP. You don't call it depreciation. In the sewer and sanitation funds, it's depreciation. Here, it's funding the capital equipment replacement fund.
So it's not by department, then it's.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
It's calculated by
another-
department, all the way down at the back.
Okay.
The last tab on the budget will be CEP.
Thank you.
Next tab is EMA.
This is a new division. You met Greg the other night, and this is his best estimate of what he needs to operate. It's guess, because we haven't done it before, but we need to be doing all of this stuff, so.
Next tab is Public Works.
This is strictly the administration, so this is the office manager, public works administrator, and the CIP manager, and the assistant public works director. And there is funding in here for a engineer that would have a corresponding decrease in engineering services across the board.
We don't have, is that person already, we have that person?
It's a new position.
Okay. Alderman Linville.
This is just, I guess, a question about putting together the budget. Why are things like tuition reimbursement in the expense line rather than tied to like wages and people at the top?
We have to use the state chart of accounts.
Okay. Fair enough.
And no, I wouldn't put them there if I was in charge. Nor would I put travel, training, and meals down there.
Next tab is Streets.
So this has been a tough year to balance a budget just because of the raising cost. And so I'm going to tell you up front that we kind of put the squeeze on the paving here. We know we need to do more, but we also need to do a whole bunch of other things as well. So with Tyler's permission, I promised him that we'd come back and augment that number if we could prove that sales tax was doing what we think it's going to do, so.
Meaning that if we do get that sales, we are going to
Move that number up. Yeah.
pigeonhole to
Yeah.
paving. I am for paving, 100%.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, which line on streets are we
50.
looking at? Thank you.
Alderman Canapari.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I noticed back in Public Works, there was nothing back into the, like the depreciation for the equipment. And there's a little bit in streets. Is that where is that where we're accounting for the CEP on our trucks? And it's only
Yeah, we have
180.
we have not got our fixed assets set up for the new divisions yet. So,
It's going to be a lot more than this, I hope.
no, that's actually, that number is what it
180.
is right now.
187?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. But here's the problem. We can only depreciate what still has life.
So our trucks are old, are they?
So the good news is when we buy new ones to replace those old ones. Tyler's happy.
That's Tyler the person, not the software. Alderman Nieves?
Line number 40, you have street lighting here. It's pretty substantial. What is this?
Every street light in town.
A street light, and this is where paid to,
3 electric companies.
okay.
Duck River, CPWS, and Middle Tennessee Electric.
Okay. Interesting. What about line 48 and 49? I think it's kind of like what happened in one of these other
Yeah,
tabs.
looks like it is.
We've got
Yeah.
duplication there.
Yeah. And, oh, by the way, Tony, if you'll check the paving year-to-date contract number, we got a problem there, too.
So these, like starting at line 95, everything's empty across there. What is all of that?
You know what, these should come out. We copied the street department budget over to make the admin budget, and those were in the street department budget.
Okay.
And they should just go out.
And what is the yellow highlight for line
Oh, I
132?
don't know. Ask them.
Okay.
Tony, Dan,
Line
Tyler, what's
132.
your yellow? Because I don't know.
134. What's the yellow highlight for? Okay.
It's an internal joke, but people color code stuff and they never give me the color code. So I'm looking at this brightly colored rainbow page and I can't figure out what any of it means. And it's not just Tony, it's all of them.
That's okay if you don't. I just thought maybe it's something significant there, Tony.
So, Tony, takeaways real quickly. Lines 48 and 49 are duplicates. And then line 95 and below, or section of there, those need to be taken out, please. And then Pam, you said something. I didn't hear what you said.
Line 50, I think. We need to check the year-to-date.
Okay.
There's a good budget in there. It wasn't spent, so we did a calculation. But I know for a fact we're going to spend that in the third quarter, so, fourth quarter.
Alderman Pomeroy.
Oh, thanks, Mayor. Ms. Caskey, I see there's, I think, 2 line 85 street signs and post, and then that's the. My question was, does that include for a new nice sign at the new Buckner? It does not,
No.
or June Lake when it opens.
Yeah, that's not in here at all. We have a wayfinding contract that's going out to try to design those. We'll hopefully get that out here in the next week or so, and we'll bring you back proposals to do some wayfinding designs so we can do new signage at the city limits, and we can give the downtown, the town center some direction on what their kind of signage should be, or how we should do historical signage, whatever. But that's not it. And if you want to know why we're no longer spending money to do signage, it's on the next tab.
Alderman Linville.
Thank you. I had a couple questions about some of the red lines on 68, 70, mainly those two. What does pedestrian safety encompass? Is that like sidewalks?
Line 68, it says pedestrian safety.
That was the money that you guys split between the new sidewalk program, neighborhood sidewalk program, and then the pedestrian safety. We split that in half, and that's those numbers.
And the red is brand new line items not used before.
And then ADA compliance. I know we have a lot of sidewalks that we need to do improvements on. There was a really significant number. Did we just pick a number to start chipping away at that, or? Okay. Got it.
Alderman Murray, did you want to?
Or crosswalks,
Okay.
both.
Is anything else in the pedestrian safety, like, is there, for example, is there any like traffic calming in there, or is that a different bucket?
On the next tab, some of that, what we tried to do was break that separately from streets so that it's identified what we're spending and where it's going.
So we're trying to use streets to be maintaining streets and right-of-ways. And then we're trying to put all the traffic over on the traffic side. So there's a new traffic, there was a traffic calming tab last year. This is now all the traffic, signals, maintenance of the signals, the people that maintain the signals, signposts, engineering, all of that.
Alderman Canafari.
Thanks, Mayor. Getting back to like the signs for the wayfinding signs for Spring Hill, June Lake, and it's not in here now. And we don't have that much left over. And they could become expensive, especially the big ones. So is there a plan before we approve this budget to put a number in for those?
So those will be a capital cost.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay, but it'll show up in the capital cost?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What about the 50,000? Was it 50,000 last year that we had? Where's that at? We had budgeted for signage. I had asked for that for our.
Yeah, it's still in this year's budget.
But
Actually,
what's
what
it
I'm
under?
what I'm gonna be proposing to do is do the wayfinding contract for that, to be able to determine what to do. And then we'll start budgeting to do it.
Is that under traffic or streets?
It's under consulting, and I'm gonna have to find where it is. I'll have to find that one. I know it's in here, but I'll have to find where it got moved.
Moving on. Tab is traffic.
So this is all of that stuff. So it's everything related to traffic. We thought, given the amount of time and energy people have talking about traffic, we might want to be able to show them how much money we spend dealing with it. And this is where the $90,000 worth of engineering, TIS traffic studies, there's your 90,000 on line 21. So that's the direct in and out from the revenue side.
Alderman Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So under column 13 for leadership adjustment at 145, can you provide some color around what that particular amount is?
Yeah, that's a signal technician with a pickup truck. So once if everybody says, yeah, make the lead adjustments happen, we will go in and spread that cost, and so the cost of that pickup truck will go down to the bottom, and the rest of the salaries will get spread. But for right now, we just bulked it someplace just to make sure we captured it all.
Alderman Linville.
Thank you, Mayor.
Just, excuse me, how many traffic signals did we have at the beginning of this calendar year? 31. Or this fiscal year? 31. How many are we going to have at the end of the 24 budget year? 43. That's why we need a new signal technician.
Alderman Linville.
Thank you. Question, so as far as traffic calming, is there a line that would be pertaining specifically to traffic calming?
37.
Okay. That one showing is repairs and maintenance grounds and ground improvements for me,
Yes.
so, perfect.
And again, we're using the comptroller's descriptions.
Okay. Make a comment there. The other question that I have is, so for things like traffic signals, do we have any that are going in that are not related to new development? And do developers typically pay for those during development? Like, I'm thinking specifically of like June Lake with those things going in.
Why do you sit so far away?
Cleburne one is one that will be going in soon. We do have some fees that developers have paid, but we're going to have to contribute some to it as well.
Okay.
But
There's potentially revenue somewhere else that would be offsetting some of this cost.
some of it, yes.
That happened on Petra
Petra
Commons.
Commons is a prime example.
The problem that we need to watch is that it takes us so long to get a light approved that we need to start finding a way in the development agreement to capture something more than 110%. Because Petra Commons is a good example of one where they paid 300 and something thousand, and that was the estimate of the cost at the time, and it ended up coming in at what, 5?
Yeah, we're 100,000. I think we had to pay close to 100,000.
100,000. That we need to, and part of that is the increased cost. Part of it is just the general time delay between the time we make a deal on a price and then it actually gets in. Yeah, okay, yeah. So anyway, so we need to be cognizant of that. But Kroger's paid for that light over there that's going in. The state's paying for the light. It's at Kedron that are going in. June Lake's paying for the light,
Brandon Woods, there's another one going in on it.
and they're paying for that. So yeah, I mean,
So are we buying all those signals directly, or those are not being accounted for in this budget? These are additional signals that the city just has to pick up the tab on
we pick up the tab on the maintenance after they're
installed. Okay.
and the electricity.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And I can't tell you how many hours he spends dealing with getting them in.
Alderman Nieves?
Thank you. I did notice, well, first off, this leadership adjustment.
Which line, please?
On line 13, sorry.
Thank you.
That we were just talking about. How are we, okay. I think, first of all, if that was labeled in a way that it's more understandable that this is a position to hire, because the way it looks, it's you know, you don't know exactly what that is, leadership adjustment. But the wages that you have in here now are for a consultant, is that correct? What are the wages? Who gets the wages?
We have two signal tech. We have a signal.
Okay,
We have 2 employees now that are in the wage line, and we're proposing to add a 3rd.
okay.
So
Yeah.
on that line 13, would it be helpful if we put in on the column G, in parentheses, maybe new pickup truck and additional FTE?
Do that.
Just a little more clarification. I noticed that on a couple of the other ones, it doesn't really indicate clearly that this is a position that you're looking at adding to this particular service, so.
Is that good, Tony? Thank you, sir. Alderman Canapari?
Thanks, Mayor. My question is, with our 5-digit, I think you said is a 5-digit code. So, do we have a way to track? I noticed there's a bunch of consultants
Yes,
doing various things.
Yes.
Can we tie contracts to the budget item?
really close. Not perfect, because I can't, if there's 6 TISs going on, I can't tie,
But you can group TIS.
yes, exactly.
And it will
Absolutely.
go back to a budget line.
Yes, exactly. I just can't, if they have 6 task orders, I can't do
Yeah.
6 different task
Yeah.
orders. I can
In other
do,
words, later on in the year, in the fiscal year, we want to know, we want to know the contracts and how it relates to a budget line item.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to tell.
yes, absolutely.
Okay,
That's
good.
one of the, that's
That's good.
exactly, and if you'll notice, line 20, we have traffic engineering services, that's ours. And then we have traffic study TISs.
Oh, the professional services.
And then the other is really small, and I'm not even
Small.
sure what that's for. I think it's for drafting, like if we needed AutoCAD or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we've got consulting services there. Tyler, what was the $150,000 in traffic and consulting services in traffic for?
Line 23.
Yeah, there was a specific reason we put that there.
There's some things like in red lights and stuff that we have to have S&W, a contractor actually come out, work on a light, like hanging guide wires and stuff across. That's what that's for. We spend a lot of money with those folks as well.
Alderman Nieves?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify what Alderman Canterbury and you, Pam, were saying. So my understanding that we're going to be able to pretty much align contract numbers and purchase orders with these consulting services. That's something in the past we haven't been able to do. And
Yeah, again, if we issue, so let's take TIS. We're going to issue each TIS as a separate purchase order. But we can glump all of the purchase order, we can glump all of the TISs and know that there's all TIS. And so, and we'll have traffic engineering services, we'll have purchase orders, but we don't have purchase orders there because we have general fee agreements. But yes, we should be much more able to tie out exact services for exact to exact budget line items.
let me just ask too, how about BOMA approved resolutions for spending on particular things or projects? Will those be associated, will the system be able to associate those resolutions to expenditures?
So let's say we had a $10,000 contract that we did without a BOMA authorization, and we had a $30,000 contract for the same type of consultant services. We could not separate those. So you couldn't pull out the 30 with the 10. However, we can, at any time for a line item, give you a purchase order reconciliation. And now that we don't have so much mess in every line item, we could easily give you what was encumbered, which would be the whole purchase order amount, and what was spent on it, and then what was remaining. So we could easily do that at any time you want now that this system is in place.
So the request that I put in a while back, just to make sure I'm getting this, was for a listing of all the consulting services or contracted services. Wanted to see who they were, how much we were paying them, and we got that, but what it was showing was either a contract number with no descriptions of what that was about, or a PO number, and again, very little description, so we couldn't really tell in detail.
Yeah, you'd have to get an open PO report to be able to do that, and we could do that, but an open PO report would be 300 pages, so it would be helpful if you were more specific in that I want to see all the open POs.
Alderman Canterbury asked to see what are we spending on consultants, contracted services. That's what it was, and so I was just wondering, are we?
I'll have to run that report to see how big it is because I don't know how that works. The open PO report is a pretty massive report just because of the way it's lined out. I know for a fact I've run that one for this organization once, and it was 300 pages. So I don't think you guys want to ride through that. Go ahead, Dan.
It's going to be a minute, I think, before we're ready. We got to do some work to be able to answer that question. We've approved Budget Amendment 1, but there's significant adjustments to a bunch of POs and things like that in there. So while you all have approved Budget Amendment 1, I need to work with the finance department and actually input it into the accounting system. And then once all that's done and scrubbed and checked, then we can run the reports and we should be able to give you a much better number. There are at least 50 POs that have to have journal entries made related just to that question right there to get them moved around into project numbers and things like that. So we could do it right now if you wanted us to, but it's probably more efficient for everybody if just give us 2-3 weeks and let Deb and I and the staff plow through it and see if we can get that pulled together. So it's coming though.
Next tab is Fleet. Fleet is the next tab.
Again, this one is billed out. All parts with the exception of some transmissions for the police department, light bulbs and wiper blades that people may need to pick up randomly during off hours, and fuel, all other vehicle cost should be here. Even if ultimately my vehicle is going out for repair because they can do it better than we can, it's still going to go through fleet and be billed back to the department. And we have estimates of what those will cost, but they're going to be real-time cost, just like they were if you were to send it out to, Honest Abe's.
Next tab is Rec.
This is a new department. Casey is reporting to Tony. Parks, which is mostly maintenance and mowing, has gone under Tyler so that we can create some efficiencies in mowing crews, because everything has to get mowed at the same time. And the right-of-ways don't scream for attention like the parks scream for attention. So we can balance labor better by having all the mowing under one place. So in order to keep responsible people responsible for the budgets, we've created a rec department division, a rec division, and a senior center division, and a parks division. So this is new and an estimate, but it's there.
Next tab is Senior
No,
Center.
I think you had a question on.
Quickly, thank you, Mayor.
Sorry.
Just making sure. So this is where you're saying the Parks and Rec Commission money is going to go
Yes.
to a line in there.
Yes.
Okay.
And I was looking to see if I'd already put it there, but I have not. So,
Is that a note for Tony?
yeah.
Got that, Tony? Thank you, sir. Next tab, Senior Center. Next tab, Library.
Still back on senior center, just please.
Okay. Back to Senior Center.
I'm just looking at, just trying to understand the, we have FICA and we have part-time wages. This is all under Park and Recs though? Is that correct?
They have one person, they have a part-time person assigned to the senior center.
Okay. And what are the contractual services? What is that?
This is for teachers, for people who come in to do events, people who, you guys didn't get paid when you did your song and dance?
No. I got a lunch.
We got snacks though,
Got
guys. We got snacks. Okay. That's good pay.
Let's beat this budget up.
And they clap for us.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what it's for, is those sorts of things.
Thank you.
Alderman Pomeroy? Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Canapari.
Yeah. Can you shed some light on why what it was, the capital outlay, that's line 55, 55 miles an hour?
It was a mistake.
Oh, okay,
No, what was it? Yeah, I don't know. It got taken out, whatever it was.
all right, okay.
Line 54.
55.
55.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The 120 was we're discussing using that stabilization material for
Oh, for the seniors, right.
so that was one of the asks originally, but it was removed
Yeah.
as part of the process.
So the good news is they really do have a parking problem over there. And having a parking problem is not a bad thing because it says it's successful. But, yeah.
Alderman
We can
Linville?
probably get Tyler to put those in for free.
Alderman Linville?
85th percentile.
Thank you, Mayor. On line 30, column W, I think we might have an error, just an extra digit was keyed in. I don't think we're spending 106,000 on water for the senior center. If we are, we might have a different discussion.
What number this?
Cell W30. So line 30, column W.
Oh, in senior center?
Correct. Or I'm so sorry, I'm on the wrong tab. I'll get there in a second. That's for library. Jumped ahead.
Well, that's my misleading. So we are now on the library tab, gang.
So in
Go ahead.
on column W, line 30, I see water for the library has gone up a lot.
Hey, did we just gain 100,000?
I need that.
I needed that. Yeah, that is good news. Trent, you get the.
Gold star.
Yeah.
You just let me reallocate that. That's more than enough, thanks.
What is that supposed to be? $1,200? $1,300. Okay. Yeah. Mine, it updated automatically. Yeah.
So we move that new fund to paving.
Yeah, that just moved our float to 374.
Okay.
Good job, Trent.
Alderman Canapari.
I'll just jump ahead in our discussions and say that I would like to see that difference applied to something that was removed from the budget that I care about, and that's a safety officer, which was deleted by the leadership team, and it's about a $60,000 item. And so I'm planning to bring that up, but this is a good opportunity for me to say we have the money.
You know,
Alderman Nieves.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out again, we have that duplication on line 37 and 38.
we'll chase those. Those are
Yeah.
the same, whatever they are, they're the same problem consistently.
But since Alderman Canapari's throwing out some things, I'll throw one out myself. I'd really like to see that money applied to the library because they always have the library and the park and rec always have the lowest budget numbers for what they need.
If I may reply, because when I first got elected, I sat down with an alderman and asked the same question: how come the library has such a small budget? And the answer I got was, if you put that money in this year, you have to put it in every year afterward.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm just saying, it's a
Yeah.
recurring cost every year.
I got you. I
Yeah.
got you. It is one of the services, though, that's important in our city. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. That's my pitch.
New tab, moving on, parks. Alderman Nieves?
Thank you. I'm probably just not seeing it, or is it not in here, the capital? Well, we're looking for purchasing land and those kind of things.
It's all capital.
That's all capital, okay. All right, thank you.
Moving on, planning. Alderman Linville?
Thank you. One of the things that we've, I think, funded the last 2 years that hasn't gotten around it because of staff turnover is updating the comp plan. Is that funded in this year's budget somewhere?
No, it is not. It is funded in this year's budget,
Okay.
but where is it? It should be in 18. Peter, can you find that number? Because we carried that forward from last year, I thought. Comp plan.
update.
And so remember that we do have the opportunity to carry forward in that last meeting anything that we haven't gotten done this year into next year. And so we will be scrubbing the budget at just before that adoption meeting to find that. I would expect that we'll find that eventually and carry it over.
Great.
I think we had 150,000.
It's 165, and I think it's 52,561.
Do you have a line number for it? Yeah, and it isn't. That's what I'm. Or is it in legislative?
No, this is just for the Spring Hill Rising
It's in
update.
planning?
Spring Hill Rising
Yeah.
20.
Then we've got a problem with the budget
Oh,
in
sure.
planning,
Yep.
Supposed to carry that over.
because it's not there, so we need to scrub that down.
Great. No, I would really
I
like to
know
see
it's
that.
in this year's budget, so,
I would really like to see that carried forward.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we would too. We'd like to talk about how to go about it, what the right attitude, what right approach is. But yeah, we'd like to, I'm not sure that biting off a whole plan all at once is right. I think we might want to bite it off in some chunks, maybe with the same consultant, but do one and evaluate it and do another and then do another. But I think we need to get started.
Yeah, certainly willing to have that conversation to see what that needs to look like.
So are we saying this might be in another tab, or we don't even have this in the budget?
No, we'll get this fixed. It's missing in this budget for some reason, and I
So
don't
we
know
just spent
why.
the money that Trent
We'll-
found earlier?
Yeah, well, no, it's in this year's budget, so we'll have to scrub this down.
Okay.
And to find out why it's not there, but, because I knew it was in the budget somewhere, so, we'll find it.
Thank you. Alderman Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. Just step back one tab, Pam, just real quick. You talked about capital outlay in parks, so I'm just going to give you a scenario. Tell me if this is something that would go into that. Last month, we met with two organizations to give us proposals on updating Evans Park. And all they did was they shared their presentations. Obviously, we're going to talk about it this month as to who we'd like to send up to BOMA. But if that's something that BOMA did approve, would that go into parks capital outlay, or would that go somewhere else?
Yeah, so, we've made the decision that any future park development is going to stay in the recreation department. That what's in parks is basically gonna be park maintenance. And so right now, there is $15,000 recommended for consulting professional services in recreation. If you need more than that, you need to get us start getting us a number and getting it in there. Go ahead.
So depending on what y'all are proposing to do, if we're talking about, hey, we want to spend a couple $3,000 to update a piece of play equipment or, fix a fence or something like that, I think we could work within operational budget, things like that. Really, if it's going to be more than $5,000 and it's more on the lines of like we want to reconfigure or we want to do ball fields or we want to do something like that, that really is a capital improvement project and needs to go in the capital projects tab, and we need to kind of vet that. Now, I'm going to take you back to the discussions that we've been having about projects. We have very little
Limited
room
funds.
for new projects.
So Dan, let me ask you a question, because this is an important conversation you and I haven't had. So if they are proposing to do a plan that would produce a plan for a capital improvement, do you want the planning in the capital plan, or do you want the planning in the operations plan?
My preference would be for them to go ahead and submit that request, and let's go ahead and assign a number to it. That way we can track can track the planning and the design as it evolves over time. And so if you guys make a decision, say, hey, we've got a little money here, we don't have enough to start construction, but we want to take this, we spent $5,000 and got a plan, now we want to advance it to design for phase 1 so it's shovel ready, so maybe we can go chase a grant. We can track all that in one bucket and not have it spread in 4 or 5 different places.
And there's nothing that says that you can't ask for general operating dollars to go fund those planning stuff, but we're going to do it as a transfer into the capital stuff. Okay?
Yeah.
And so, but I think he's right. That was the answer I would have made. So we can track cost. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, we don't know whether we're going to do this. We don't know when we're going to be able to afford to do it, but we'd like to get it done so we can chase grants. If you say, hey, it's going to cost us 10 grand, then we can set up a number and then fund it out of this fund. So it would be we would set up a line in the rec department that says transfer to capital projects, and it would fund whatever that cost is.
Okay, appreciate that. And if Tony, because I know, Tony, you're working with some Parks and Rec too, so just real quick, will you just make a note? Because we did not get cost. All we got was a presentation of vision of what it could look like. Maybe you could, partner with Casey, because if we need to, chase down grants, whatever we need to do, I just want to make sure you're in the loop in it.
Alderman Canafari?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just briefly, so that I got a grasp of what's going on here, just as an example, take line item 21.
Which tab are you on?
I'm in planning.
Okay, thank you.
Other travel expenses. So we see that the amended budget was $2,900, and we're estimating that only $500 is going to be spent. So there's nothing in the 24 recommended or required, but at year end, we're going to go to that budget line item, and we're going to take the difference of 500 from 2,900 and move it into, at the end, we didn't spend that, but
Right,
we
so
had
it's
the
going to go
budget.
to fund balance.
So it'll go into a fund balance, or will it go back to a line item called other travel expense? No. It's
It
just
goes
one big, yeah, okay.
But do notice that we've moved travel. We had this random travel number out there. Yeah. So we've moved travel down to a more appropriate place where all that stuff's grouped together.
So it's a general rule, correct me if I'm wrong, that any unspent monies goes to general fund balance, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any revenue, any monies where, anytime revenues exceed expenditures, the difference goes to fund balance, unless you specify otherwise. So by default, any money we don't spend that we had revenue to cover is going to fund balance.
Next tab is codes. Please change to that. Next tab is engineering.
So this is another one of what we called the purple tabs. I think I'm going back to the purple tabs. I kind of like those. And of course you did. This is one. Poor engineering has been the redheaded stepchild. It's been in 3 different locations in 3 years. Now the good news is this is the 4th year, and the 4th year it's in the same spot as it was in the 3rd year. So I think we've stopped their migratory habits, but this is getting split equally between streets, stormwater, sewer, and water. And the reason that that is happening is this is where the development inspectors are housed, and those are the 4 things that they are charged with reviewing. Oh, and it's getting split with planning. Right, that's the other 5th one. So these are equal splits, 20, 20, 20, and 20. I don't have a better idea how to do that. If somebody has concerns with it, let me know. If somebody's got a better idea how to do it, let me know. But until then, this is the process.
Alderman Pomeroy.
Thanks, Mayor. Skansky, line 32, FY23 year-to-date, gas, oil, diesel, fuel, only use 260. We expect 20,000 by year-end, and then we're asking for another 35.
That's a very good question, and I don't know the answer.
Yeah, that's
Remember my comment earlier about budget amendment 1 is passed, but hasn't been put in yet? I believe that's one of the things that's going to pick up on that. Guys are getting coded all over the place, so we've got to get it in, and then we got to journal entry stuff.
And part of that is because the memo didn't get spread around quite as far as it needed to be about where to code stuff, and so they've been coded. They were on old credit cards, and they got sent to the wrong account, and nobody knew to look for it, and that kind of stuff. So we'll get it all consolidated and cleaned up.
So, Mr. Allen, you're talking about, so like, for example, that 20K, the new amendment will make that number go up and it's funded, correct? Thank you. Alderman Nieves?
So these numbers, like $522 million for old salary, that's not right, right?
I thought we got rid of that.
All those 40 million for Christmas bonus. I'm working in the wrong place.
No,
FICA,
no,
all that,
you're
so-
seeing decimals. You shouldn't see decimals.
How many million for what?
Okay.
We did have one. We did have a $52 million salary that we had to go find, but it was pretty obvious. Huh? Yeah, I think Jessica did too, because I
You're
think it was in her department. Yeah, it's just the decimals view.
Alderman Nieves, are you still up?
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, next tab is WS Fund Summary.
Let me just ask. So it is 8 o'clock. The mayor would like to stop at 9. We are close enough that we might be able to avoid doing an operational discussion on the 18th. If you want to meet on the 18th, we can stop now and do all the NEFs later. If you want to skip the 18th, we can keep moving. Or if you got another alternative, I'm all ears.
I'd prefer to keep moving.
So let's take okay, I prefer to keep moving. We need to be efficient with our time and stop by the stop time. Let's take a 5-minute break. And I want to go say hi to Mr. Toth back there. Hello, sir. And let's take a 5-minute break, come back, and we'll continue on. We'll start with WS Fund Summary. We're at the WS Fund Summary, back from recess. Ms. Caskey.
Yes, so let's take a quick look at the top. We don't really need to look at the bottom because the bottom is just the, all the other tabs rolled up. Now remember one thing in water and sewer, all the capital projects have to be in that fund. They cannot be segregated. So you will see capital expenses there. The water and fund summary has the revenues at the top. So again, I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary there. Remember, we are still waiting on a water and sewer a rate study, and that is still coming forward. So this probably doesn't look anything like what it'll ultimately end up looking like. Right now, we've projected basically the same as we've had on the same rate structure that we've had, which is a slightly higher sewer rate than water rate, and other than that, even Steven.
Thank you. Water, our utility administration is the next tab.
This is Jessica and Eric, and that's it. We've moved Dan back to general fund admin and split him, so right down the middle.
What's Dan doing now?
We had Dan last year in utility admin, and this year we've moved him back to general fund because now that we have Tony, we split general fund and water fund. We split admin between water and general fund, and then so that means we'd be splitting Tony in half and leaving Dan whole in utilities, which would be overdoing utilities. So we moved him back to general and just split him. So it equals out to be the same thing.
Next
Trust
tab.
me, what I said made sense, but I was realizing as I was going that I was talking in circles.
Next tab is WSGF Services.
So this is where we pay the staff to collect the sewer bill, water and sewer bills, and to mail the payments and all of that sort of thing. If you can tell, this is pretty heavily loaded. The 250 for merchant service credit card processing fees, that's not really that. That's for preparation of the bills. And then there's postage for the bills. And so anything we can do to get people to accept an email would be that much better. And I'm actually considering during the rate study of proposing a discount for not getting a if you get your bill electronically and you pay automatically through ACH, I'm thinking about giving you a discount.
So again, if we're talking about a number, please identify a line number. So you're talking about credit card, you meant line 26 at
Yeah.
250? Okay,
And postage is 20.
thank you.
So anyway, so that's a big hefty little bill. Yeah.
Alderman Linville?
Yeah, I think we should certainly pursue any sort of alternative arrangement or incentivization to get people off of having to have it mailed. Is there any sort of statutory requirement that we mail physical? Okay. I think that makes a ton of sense.
No, I get mine electronically.
Okay.
And I pay mine through an ACH, so, you know, but yeah. I mean, doing that certainly minimizes the amount of staff time, counter time, postage, prep time. So,
Yeah, I would definitely encourage staff to pursue that. Personally.
Alderman Nieves?
Thank you. On line 26, am I understanding that's going to be $250,000 we're projecting for credit card processing?
so see that 250 down here? Look up in line 19.
Okay.
That's where it was before. So
For
it really-
contractual services?
Yeah, it was dumped into a big giant bucket called contractual services.
Just a quick note on the postage component. So we have to send out a water quality report, or we have to give them a notification of that water quality report every year, and that does have to go in some type of a mailer. So if we opt to push for electronic, those are gonna have to be, you still have 3 months that you have to send that out. So you'll still end up
And
with postage.
There's a statutory requirement that we must
It is a
send it.
requirement that we.
It's a federal
Physical,
requirement.
okay.
For the water quality
Got it.
report. So that, right now, we're able to submit that with just
bills.
putting it on the bills.
Yeah.
But if you remove that bill and it goes electronic, you're gonna have to send that to them in a
Gotcha.
paper format.
Good to know.
I think EPA is working on trying to change that, but right now, the EPA still requires us to send that out. Unless it changed in the last year.
Sure. Yep.
So,
Alderman Murray?
thank you, Mayor. So we can't put that information
We would have
on
to,
the email, like I get sent an email, we go in and pay the bill. We can't put that water information on the bill.
they have to have it. It is, the way that I understand it, and I might be wrong, I might need to double check on this, but the way I understand it, it has to be sent to them. We either have to submit it to them on a bill, or we have to send it to them like on a postcard. So that water quality report information has to be submitted to the residents. It's just 3 times a year, but just wanted to make sure that we understood that that still has to go to them. We'll be happy to try to push it as much as possible.
All right, next tab, W, our water treatment tab.
You will find that electricity drives a lot of this, and then chemical drives a whole bunch of it. That's why I said I'm out of numbers, even in 5 digits. I'm out of numbers for any more chemicals. That and books. We found a cheaper way to do the radios, so that's why the radios got pulled.
Next tab is water,
Distribution.
WWTP, wastewater treatment plant.
No, water distribution.
Yeah, correct. Thank you. Water distribution, thank you.
There, the thing I'll note to you is in line 52, we're planning on spending 1.7 million buying water from CPWS next year.
We averaged 2 is what we anticipate, which of course will fluctuate between winter and summer. Yeah, we'll store that for you. But that also is offset in your revenues.
Alderman Linville?
Thank you. Line 37, I noticed we, for just repairs and maintenance, spent $569,000 last year. We're budgeting 115. Do we just were there just a lot of repairs this year that we needed to move forward, and we don't repair, or we don't anticipate that next week, fiscal year?
That was the water line replacement. So that was the Cleary construction where we did the water line replacement this last year.
Okay.
It was $400 and some odd thousand for that. So that,
So we anticipate that being a 1-year expense.
That was a one-year
that we don't
expenditure.
expect in the future.
right, it was just a one-time, we had two sections that we needed to contract out. Is bigger than what the guys
Got it.
felt comfortable with.
Thank you.
And then rest of it's just a
Are we still
normals.
chasing leaks somewhere in here?
We do have the leak detection in there.
Yeah.
I've got my paper comments that has,
Isn't it other professional services, line 30?
$145,000. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's the detection and then parts and we're
We
supplying
also
the
have some
labor.
money in there because we've got 19 residents right now that have small leaks that we're gonna have to do this spring. So
The leaks, 30.
that's in the Highlands.
Alderman Nieves?
Thank you, Mayor. I notice under the capital outlay, why is it that there are some numbers here, but the majority of it is blank? Is that somewhere else?
It's probably in previous years. So if it's, and some of these don't even belong there, but if there's any number anywhere, yes.
Go back to my comment earlier. Budget Amendment 1 has been passed, but
Well,
it hasn't been fully implemented.
And some of these are old, like sewer relocation pro shotgun.
Project Shotgun.
Yeah, and it's got a budget back in 19.
So if there was historical information,
And
we
we
left it
just
there for
can't
you to
get
be
rid
able
of
to
it to
see,
keep the
like
historical
19,
accuracy.
20, 21, 22 costs associated with any of that capital. We left anything that had money associated with it. And then, of course, whenever the historical overlay stuff, if it's got historical data in there, your descriptions are still gonna be there. So let's say that you had a project that was in 16, 17. If that's still in the Tyler Technology Systems, it's gonna pop up still on the populated for when we run reports.
Okay, so,
And a perfect example, line, I think
90
it's 96.
96?
The one that's Water Booster Station, Highway 31.
Yeah.
That's 720.
726, 348.
That, so in Budget Amendment 1, there's a whole series that adjusts that, moves it, because we created a 5-digit project code that all the expenses for the project are gonna be tracked under. So that actually is getting zeroed out of there and is gonna be put under an actual project code to be tracked separately. So that's, again, Budget Amendment 1's approved, but hasn't been fully implemented yet.
So what you're saying then, if I'm understanding correctly here, is like the treatment plant capacity upgrade and some of these others that I know we haven't got to, they're not gonna show up here? The numbers are not gonna show up here?
Under the new system, the 900 series is under the individual divisions, right? So distribution, both the plants, all the 900 series is not for projects anymore. If we have a capital project, it's going to get its own 5-digit code, and then we have basically 10 numbers assigned to that cover planning, engineering, and design, construction, construction inspection, all the major components. They'll all be moved into their own 5-digit unique identifier code. So as we run reports, we can show you exactly how much money has been spent
And
per
that's from the
project.
amendment, right? Okay,
Well,
and
it's from the
so,
chart change.
so this
both.
is not the new that we're looking at right now?
Yes.
Come again? I didn't hear you. What?
Isn't this the new one that we're looking at right now?
The new what?
You said the new system, you said the new numbers are gonna be coming into the,
So the old numbers are still here for you to see them, but when that flips, you'll see the new.
When he
and
gets the Budget Amendment 1.
The Budget Amendment 1
okay,
is
so that's the
actually-
only way that those numbers are gonna come in is when Budget Amendment 1 is entered in? We're not gonna see the new numbers until then?
Related to the project changes and all those POs, that's correct.
Okay.
We've got to enter that in, and then it'll pop through in the reports.
Okay.
And in case you missed this, one of the reasons that Budget Amendment 1 was so large was that we were moving some things from here to here. There wasn't any new money being spent. We were just changing the way we put it into places. So,
But now as far as like the equipment that we're
Yeah,
requesting this year,
that's gonna be
that's
in-
still in this capital
Yes,
section right
that's
here.
right.
So, and when we're pulling from depreciation and we're gonna replace vehicles or any of those components, those are still in this, that's part of the other reason that we left this here, is because that way you can see vehicles or any of those major things that would be under the depreciation, those are in here.
So is that Dan's job to get those all in there? Is that yours? Okay, and that's happening pretty soon then? I'd like to see the budget with that in there. I mean, I'd like to see it.
I don't have access.
Okay.
Go as quick as I can.
Sorry, Dan, put you on the.
Alderman Pomeroy.
Thank you, Mayor. Line 55, is that also awaiting Budget Amendment 1 fix?
The water meters?
Yep.
So the fiscal year '24, so '23's is where you all had approved us to go ahead and change over to the cellular meters. We've already got our first shipment actually and started putting those in last week. So that will come in with the budget amendment. The year-end estimate is actually incorrect right there because we got to get the budget amendment components in there. Once you see that, you'll see that go up. We put 685 like we had discussed to be able to roll that over multiple years to try to go ahead and slowly move that in. So that accounts for changing those cellular meters out from the ones that we can't actually get for 3 years now.
Tony, line 50, can you tell me why we left so much money in vehicle parts and repairs? That'll explain it. Thank you.
Next tab, wastewater treatment plant, WWTP. Next tab, wastewater collection.
And just so you know, I is got a project number attached to it. So you'll see no I efforts here. It's over in the, I figured somebody would, which is why I thought I'd answer before ask.
Next tab is summary.
Okay, this is the personnel summaries that you may or may not be able to see all of. Can you see all of that?
We have it.
Do you have it all? You don't have it all. Shoot, I thought, darn it. Okay, I need to get you something that one works. There's stuff on the other side you need to see, like the departments that those are assigned to. But those are this is just the compilation of the spreadsheet that will be later, that's all reflected in the individual tabs. Personnel authorizations comes from that same tab, and that's the number of employees that are authorized to work in each of those divisions. And I've shown you the number of current vacancies and the number of full-time positions. And
You want me to plug in?
do you have it?
I have the master up.
Yeah, can do that. You do not have, and I can't figure out how to get easily, the changes that are being proposed is the new request. I'm going to do that via org chart for you because there's more adjustments to process than there is. I just need to unplug, I think, Tony. Anyway, I'll get you an org chart that'll show those change differences. But that 34 has been pretty consistent all year. What positions have been vacant has been different, but the number has not been very different.
Not the right screen.
Well, I guess we're waiting for you to do the soft shoe then.
I'm going to tell David I'm shy.
Well, until he gets that on, let's go on. Personnel authorization, is that pretty
That's
much
what, we were
tandem
just
with-
talking about.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's just raw numbers for you to look at. Any questions on how many we got where?
Oh, so it is.
Hey,
Alderman Murray?
so Pam, on the vacancies with police, 9, but is it right, Chief, that we've hired 8, or is that? Gotcha.
And that's why we have a consistent number. So there's the summary that I'll make sure you can get at. Ones are salaries, 2s are wages, 3s are part-times. And go to the top of that, Tony. You are now in the, see that 5115? There's 14 of you. That is you guys. That is you and the planning commissioners. So 5 is you get health insurance, but you don't get other benefits. So we've coded you out below the others. 4 is interns, and my commitment to you was we would only hire interns with vacancy money, not with actual dedicated dollars. So we'll make sure you can get to that.
There's a description out next to the number.
No, there is not, but I'll add that before when I unlock it to make sure you know where things are. Okay? All right.
All right, so does that satisfy personnel authorization as well?
Yeah, unless somebody has questions. Pardon?
Yeah, until we can actually see it.
Yeah.
All right, moving into the red color, MS4. MS4.
This is, of course, the stormwater program. And yeah, Tyler?
We're also doing the rates study as well right now, so some of these numbers will be plugged in with that. I think we try to keep everything balanced with what the numbers you guys asked us to look at.
Alderman Linville.
Thank you. Had a couple quick questions on line 38. Looks like we had a big jump. Yeah, and I don't know if this is a code issue, what's coming over, but it's titled Repairs and Maintenance Grounds and Ground Improvements.
It is.
About $100,000 jump there. What does that
So we've got
cover?
Metal pipe that's in the ground in older neighborhoods that we've got to start lining, and we want to start that program and start doing some of them.
So that's an actual increase.
Yeah.
Okay. And then this might be best directed to Alderman Cox, but city street litter program. I see that we spent less than 1,000, but we have 20,000 budgeted for next year.
I think we've been taking money from somewhere else that was not coded to this. We caught that when we started doing this. So we are due to start buying. I've got to buy some signage and stuff for adopted streets. We're going to have to use some of that. But I think we've been taking out of POs like Lowe's and stuff like that. Just been taking out of the POs.
So we anticipate the year-end number will be more than 376.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Kanapari.
Line 93. Where does that number come from? I see the formula, it's a sum, but I don't see any numbers above it, so.
Oh, on X?
Yeah, X. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
The formula is
Oh, well, the formula's wrong. Yeah, X, formula.
It's over in Y. I think that Y is probably correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that whole series of formulas needs to be rerun.
Next tab is MS4 Revenue.
Panic for revenue. Just so you know, we've split these revenues out from sheets that had personnel because maybe not this year, but next year, what you're going to see is the top revenue items will be all the same, no matter whether you have them or not, so we can drill through the organization to collapse cost on total personnel, total health insurance, total retirement, that sort of thing.
And this assumes we make the rate adjustment.
Yes. And in fact, if you notice, it assumes we make the rate adjustment in this year and we didn't carry it on to next. We'll fix that.
Next tab is State Street Aid.
Yeah, this one's a pretty straightforward, I created it, yeah. This didn't have any revenue, that's why I didn't do it. This is a calculation based on population. So it is $35.70 per person is what we get in state gasoline and motor fuel, and $1.83 is what we get in the city streets and transportation money. Here's the good news: our census population is going up, but probably not until next year, right? So we're going to have to live with the 50,005 for this year. And then we're going to do a census rate adjustment because we had a whole neighborhood left out of our census calculation. So we were really more than 50,005. And so we are going through that process now. And we're proposing to do the special census because we just didn't have the staff to do it this year. We're proposing to carry over that money to do it next year, and then we'll authorize that. So this will be the last year that 50,005 will be our population.
Alderman Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. So Pam, just real quick on line 17, traffic calming. I see there's nothing in there. Is that something that we don't budget for? And if we need to do measures, we
budgeted for traffic calming. Remember the 500 and something thousand over in the traffic budget?
Okay.
What we did was attempt to streamline the use of state street aid basically to paving. Our paving needs are great enough that basically we're paying the bonds that are dedicated to that, and then we're putting everything else towards paving. And if we have so much money there that we can reduce what we spend in the general fund, then that's fine. We'll do the other stuff with it. But we're just trying to keep this fund very straightforward and simple. It just makes it more complicated to spread all that money around.
Next tab, sanitation.
Getting rid of brush, guys, is becoming a giant, expensive problem.
Bags?
Pardon?
Talking about the brush pickup?
I'm talking about brush pickup, not the grass pickup. I'm talking about the knuckle booms picking up tree limbs and the grinding of the tree limbs.
Fire training, Chief. Fire training. Next tab is sanitation revenue, SanRev.
And these are the new rates.
Next tab is tourism. Alderman Linville.
Thank you, Mayor. Question about other contractual services. What all does that include?
25,000 of that is a proposal to use some data, to start grabbing some data to use to develop greater tourism opportunities. In fact, I'm going to bring you a proposal to spend some of that 25,000, to spend some of it sooner rather than later, but then do it on an annual basis. And then I put another 25 in there just for things that we may need to do to start that process. The more data you have, the better decision making you can have, the more you can influence what you want. So this is an appropriate money to place to get it, and frankly, this fund has the money to do that with, so I propose that. The other thing that we are doing, and this is a minor adjustment, we're not bringing back a contract, we're just making an adjustment. We are going to hold back, if you'll notice that CVB, Williamson CVB's payment is the same this year as it is next year. So what we're going to do is start paying on the previous year's collection so that we can give them a firm budget number and they know what they have to play with. And so we're going to use this year's revenues to pay next year, and we're actually going to reserve that because we have it to reserve. So we're going to propose reserving that for payment next year. So we'll be collecting in advance what we're paying Williamson in the following year. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So you were talking, though, Alderman Linville, line item 15, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So I guess line item 19, subscription, what would that cover?
Chamber?
Oh, no.
30 grand.
We already have changed.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to have to go
Well-
do we have any comments on those? Huh.
I guess my question is, you know, we had the $10,000 for the Chamber Welcome Center last
Yeah.
year. Is that in this year's budget?
No.
That is not included, okay. All right. And-
There's clearly money there if you want to.
Sure.
You know, do it.
Yep, and then the last question that I have is on line 35. There's a line listed library. What, that with 50,000 allocated?
Sorry. Okay, that should be Ripavilla house maintenance.
Got it.
Yep. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sir Tony, do you have that? Thank you. Alderman Nieves?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm looking at this Williamson CVB and the contractual, but those numbers right there, so you had 46,000. Why is there such a jump?
It's 1%. And so we just hadn't paid the second and third quarter. So February was half, not all. Instead of being 3 quarters, it was 2 quarters.
Okay.
So that number is a direct 25% of whatever is in line 2.
So then the 23 estimated is that then what you're saying, that's going to be the number every year?
No, it's going to be, the number next year will be 25% of what we collected this year. And next year, the following year, it'll be 25% of what we collect next year. So we're paying for the amount in arrears so that we can give them a direct budget number that they can work off of.
So the $50,000 for the other contractual services there for data, are we not receiving marketing data,
Yeah, I'm
tourism
talking,
data?
yeah,
from-
we're receiving boatloads of tourism data, but we're not receiving, like, what retailers match that profile, that tourism profile. So want to use that for economic development purposes to match what we get, because we now have great data from tourists. Now we want to match, okay, our tourist profile and our city profiles now meld together. We've never had a melded profile before because we haven't had as much tourism as we could have.
So is this where the economic development plan would be in the budget?
You can spend 30% of this money on non-tourist related expenses. If you're doing an economic development plan to encourage tourism, be that in support of USTA or in support of the predators or whatever, you could do an economic development plan out of this funding. If you're doing a overall economic development plan to support office development or research development or industrial development, you'll have to be careful to use it out of this fund. I'm not saying you can't, but you're going to have to be careful.
So where is it? I've been waiting kind of to where's it at in the budget? Because
Economic development.
Yeah, carried over.
No, that was the comp plan.
But we also had the economic development plan last year as well.
I don't think we ever actually funded that.
We talked about it. We've
that
never
didn't
funded it.
pass last year.
Yeah, it didn't pass.
Are you sure about that? Those are two
Yeah.
I have been asking for years.
He sponsored it. Yeah.
Now, we did pass a resolution directing staff to explore what
Yeah.
that would look like. That was October last year, maybe?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that
Well,
could
and
be-
one of the things I've come
Yeah.
back to is saying, here's some opportunity to start
But as far
developing
as
data.
funding goes,
Yeah.
I don't think that made it in the budget last
So-
2 years.
Okay, so my last question on this is, where is, or is it in here, the town center redevelopment? Isn't some of the tourism there? There's something there for tourism I haven't seen that either so far in the budget.
So no, shouldn't be. The town center redevelopment is a capital project, and it has a capital project number. And so the money that's currently being used by CT Consultants for that plan is in the capital project. And, but there's nothing funded past funding the plan. Right, for future construction, that's right. Now, it is possible, I think you could make the case that you could spend some tourism money doing some redevelopment work downtown. This fund's not going to generate nearly as much as you need in the short term, although with the number of hotels that are coming, it's going to grow. So that will ultimately be a board decision as to how to allocate that money. But right now, it is it is funded as a capital project, and it is a plan, not any construction.
Alderman Murray?
Excuse me, thank you, Mayor. Just one quick clarification, Pam, on the Williamson CVB, the 92,000.
Yep.
Is that paid to them from the hotel motel tax?
Only revenue.
And it's not citizens paying for it, it is hotel motel tax, unless a citizen goes and spends the night in a hotel or motel. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, understanding that that is not something that people are being charged, that is something they're paying. And so as, to your point, as we increase in hotels and increase in people coming and staying in hotels, that will be expected to go up, and we'll probably make those adjustments, obviously, to Williamson CVB or whoever else may be.
Well, and if you notice, the 62 this year is 62 next year, and then I've proposed that we're going to get 400 next year, and then their 25% goes up to 100 in that next year.
That's not just somebody else paying it. That's tax money revenue for the city. In other words, that money or that tax was to help bring in more revenue for the city. So it is a benefit to the citizens, and we're spending it in another way.
That tax by state statute has to be spent on tourism development.
Right.
Alderman Cox?
Thanks, Mayor. Pam, rows 41 through 44, there's no descriptions. Do you know what those numbers are representing?
Fund balance changes, sorry, we can populate the,
Okay.
it's the beginning fund balance, revenues, expenditures, ending fund balance.
Okay,
But we'll populate those.
thank you.
Mr. Tony, 37 through 44, sir. Next tab is the drug fund.
This, by the way, is where we're putting the opioid settlement money. I do not have up there in the drug fund a place for it yet because I don't think we've gotten our first payment. We have? Where'd we put it? Okay, well, I don't have a line item for it, so we need to make sure we get a unique line item for that opioid money, and it needs to go here.
Tony, 24 through 29, no description. Thank you, sir. The last tab, library fund.
Mayor, I want to do one more fund after that, one more tab after that, and then I'm going to let you.
All right. Second to the last tab, the library fund.
This is all generated from donations to the library and interest earnings on their monies and the library board fees, fines and fees, yeah. Do we not keep up with fines and fees, or we consider all of those donations? We don't. We might want to look at doing that. And then if you'll go all the way to the purple tab called CEP.
Last tab in the row.
Yeah.
CEP.
This is the amount of money that comes out of the depreciated calculation, and that's in a separate spreadsheet. And then it comes over here, and then what's below it is the calculation or the request of what to spend. So we're going to be contributing 1.5 million to the CEP. We're going to be spending 1.3. Now, when we get this fully set up, and it's not yet because it wasn't on the old system, so we couldn't bring it over until the conversion was finished, each department will have a line that says this is the amount of money that's yours, okay? That said, they collectively agreed to let each other borrow from their funds to buy what they needed. So if you look, the police department is only putting in 624, but they're spending 750, and we've acknowledged that it's the fire department that's probably funding those extra cruisers for the police department.
Now that's taking one for the team. Nice. And we're talking about line item 6, by the way. Line item 6.
So now, again, as everybody starts getting new equipment and we start depreciating all of this and setting that money aside, over time, this will stop being the case. This will be much more in keeping with, particularly if we are investing this money well, you start to earn the money, the difference in inflation pretty much. I walked into a city that had been doing this for 15 years, and we never thought twice about buying a piece of replacement equipment. The money was always there. So,
Thank you. So, in wrapping up this meeting, I would like to thank sincerely the entire staff, the department heads, the hours and hours, days and hours, the advances and retreats you had to put all these numbers and all these tabs together. And I would like to thank my teammates here, the elected officials, all 8 of us sitting here right now that, 8 sets of eyes. We had 16 eyes looking at this thing for the last 3 hours. And we collectively honed down this budget, and it was just a great collaboration. Thank you very, very much. Meeting adjourned.